Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, my friends, today I have a sutta by our Supreme Buddha to share with you. So I think you might have learned this one before, maybe many times before. So this is called the Dart. So I took this translation by Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi. So some of the other translations have the teaching about the arrow. So in Pali, this is called Sallasutta. So, my dear friends, this teaching is worth of having regular attention because it is that much profound and we can find so many interesting things about our life and about meditations and about very especially about our feelings. So here our Supreme Buddha teaches us about feelings in a way of sensations. So usually so when it comes to English language, so we usually say that when we're tired, so we say like I'm feeling tired. When we like fear, we say like I'm feeling terror, like frightened. So in those times, we also use the term feeling, but in this teaching, this feeling actually stands for our sensations. So, which means whatever that we become sensitive to, which means the painful feeling, happy feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So, those are the three feelings. Pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So we can also say the last feeling as a neutral feeling. Now, my dear friends, the teaching starts like this. Because the uninstructed worldling feels a pleasant feeling, a painful feeling, and a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. The instructed noble disciple too feels a pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Therein, monks, because what is the distinction, disparity, the difference between the instructed noble disciple and the uninstructed worldling? So now our Supreme Buddha asks from the Bhantes, monks, there are two different persons. One is a uninstructed worldling, which means the ordinary person, and the instructed noble disciple, which means the noble disciple of the Buddha. So now the Buddha asked to give this teaching before delivering this discussion. Buddha asked to open up the discussion. What monks is the difference in between these two personnel? So we can say like ordinary person as a usual regular person who never heard about these Four Noble Truths or teaching. And the noble disciple is the person who successfully achieved the enlightenment and who reached to the reach for the liberation. So now, friends, while the Buddha asked this, the monks, the Bhantes said, Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One, guided by the Blessed One. Take recourse in the Blessed One. It would be good if the Blessed One would clear up the meaning of this statement. Having heard it from him, the bhikkhus will remember it. So that's the situation that the monks declare their confidence on the Buddha. So they say, Buddha is our teacher. So we listen by the Buddha and we clear up these teachings after hearing from the Buddha. So then we will remember it. So then before starting this discussion, Buddha said, then listen and attend closely, monks, I will speak. Yes, Venerable Sir, the monks replied. The Blessed One said this. Monks, when the uninstructed worldling is being contacted by the painful feeling, he sorrows, grieves, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast, and becomes distraught. So Buddha say, for a usual, like ordinary person, whenever that he is stricken by a painful feeling, so he start to sorrow, grieve, and lament. So they show up their sadness and suffering by weeping and beating their breast, so and become distraught. So that is a way of like people react to these painful feelings. So that is the nature of the ordinary person, now the Buddha say. Now he feels two feelings, a bodily and a mental one. Now the Buddha say, when he become sad, when he suffer from painful feeling, he feels two feelings, a bodily and a mental one. Not only that it brings pain to his mind, but it also brings pain to his body. You know, sometimes when, let's say, if a person like he being criticized by somebody, or maybe that he might be like offended by somebody's words, so that brings a certain amount of painful feeling in the mind. And if that is so much painful, so it occupies the body and it goes to even to the body and start to suffer from body as well as mind, the mind and the body. So they will suffer with that painful feeling. So the Buddha said, in that way, so not only that he suffered from mind, but also from body. And you know, my friends, like let's say for an example, like let's say when we are walking, so all of a sudden, let's say we hit our leg on a chair or a corner of a door or something like that. So then it brings painful feeling to the body. So not only we feel that pain to our body, but we start to suffer from that in our mind. We might have like so much sadness. Why I like suffering from this bodily feeling? Like we might see like who put this like chair over here, who left this door halfly open or something like that. So like whenever that we feel bodily feeling, we also feel it from our mind, and whenever we feeling it from mind, we also feel it from our body. So that is Buddha say the nature of the ordinary person. Now Buddha give a interesting simile to understand this. Suppose they were to strike a man with a dart, and then they would strike him immediately afterwards with a second dart, so that the man would feel a feeling caused by two darts. So Buddha say, let's say that let's replace the term dart with the arrow. So when a person shoot a arrow to another person, let's say somebody is stricken by an arrow. So now to the same place, they will shoot a arrow, the second arrow to the same place. Now he is suffering from two arrows. So the same way, that man suffers from body and mind whenever they experience a painful feeling. So too, the uninstructed worldling, the noble and ordinary person, is being contacted by painful feeling. He feels two feelings, a bodily one and a mental one. Now, my friends, so the Buddha said, being contacted by that same painful feeling, he harbors aversion towards it. Now, according to the Buddha's teachings, there are something called the underlying tendencies in our mind, which means the underlying tendency is like uh, some kind of defilements that is rooted in the bottom of the mind of a person who was wandering in the sansaric journey. So they have these kinds of defilements that is in the bottom of the mind. Whenever it gets chance, they will rise up and cause us suffering. It is something like sleeping defilements. So they will wake up whenever there is a opportunity to environment to arise that defilement. So Buddha said they are called underlying tendency. So it is the nature of a unpurified mind. So we all have that kinds of underlying tendencies. So then Buddha say it arise just right after the painful feeling as a aversion, which means as a, let's say, as a anger. So that aversion brings the repel or the repulsion towards the experience. So we might not notice because we don't usually have uh, mindfulness focused into the painful feelings. We might not, in the first place, understand or realize that there is like aversion or anger towards the sad feeling, but it is maybe it might arise in a subtler level and start to gradually expand, just like let's say we put a seed on the ground, so it will sprout up and gradually it will like grow and expand and will be a giant tree. So the same way, this aversion in a subtler level, it arises and it brings repulsion or recoil towards the experience. So if somebody were to, like, let's say, like to blame, if somebody blame us or tell us a harsh word, so definitely we will have anger towards that because we feel we become sensitive to the painful feeling, and as an immediate result, there arise aversion from that underlying tendencies. So now the Buddha says when he harbors aversion towards the painful feeling, when he harbors to aversion towards the painful feeling, the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feelings lies behind this. So every painful feeling has this nature of arising aversion. So being contacted by painful feeling, now Buddha say the nature of the ordinary mind, being contacted by painful feeling, he seeks delight in sensual pleasures. For what reason? because the uninstructed worldling does not know any escape from painful feeling rather than sensual pleasures. Now, because he is going through this sad feeling, he chooses to uh, remove that painful feeling by relying on sensual pleasures, which means the pleasure of the sense objects, the which means the beautiful pictures, beautiful sounds, smell, taste, touch. So that's usually what a ordinary person seek for their entertainment by being relying on sense objects. Now his hope is to remove that sad feeling, that painful feeling. So he start to stimulate his senses by picture, sound, smell, taste, touch. Now, Buddha say these objects of the senses, when they are agreeable, desirable, like enticing, so it takes our mind to that enjoyment. But in the same time, these sense pleasures, Buddha say it from a simile, it is something like fruits of a tree. Now, the fruits always have the danger of being fallen. So we cannot give it a specific time. These fruits will fall down in this time, and this particular time it will fall. For sure, when it's ripened, it will fall, but in between, it has the danger of falling down. So that's the nature of the picture, sound, smell, taste, touch. So now, when it comes to sense pleasures, so he seek delight in sense pleasures to remove that painful feeling, because the reason is why he does not know any way to escape from that painful feeling other than sense pleasures. Now, when he seeks delight in sense pleasures, the underlying tendency, the second underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling lies behind this. Now, when he interact with the sense pleasures, now he start to feel pleasant feeling because of the beauty of the like because of the pretty things among the sense pleasures, he start to feel happy feeling, pleasant feeling. Now, right after the pleasant feeling, the immediate result is the same as the aversion to the painful feeling. To the pleasant feeling, there arise lust, or we can say greed. So when being with sense pleasures, it keeps bringing the greediness to the objects. Now, now let's try to understand with this. Let's try to apply this with our experience. Now, let's say there's a person, or let's say there's a boy. So might going through a let's say by a breakup or something. So now he start to remember that past memory. Now, because of that sadness, so he start to suffer from that underlying tendency of aversion. So he start to repel from that experience. So, but again and again, this memory arise in his mind. So he might remember that person who was broken up with in his life. So now, whenever he feels that, he choose to let go that sad feeling, that painful feeling, by seeking sensual objects. Maybe he might go and watch a movie or listen to a song, or maybe he might go to a restaurant to enjoy tasty food, and maybe he might go to for a walk and have some touch, like changing the place, environment. So in that way, so he tried to remove that sadful feeling by his in his mind. Now, the second underlying tendency of greed or lust arise in between him to the pleasant feeling. Now, when he has that pleasant feeling, when he has like greed, in sometimes you might have seen when people choose to remove, like when they are going to remove their sad feelings, they will go to sometimes intoxications to the taste, maybe like to alcohol or something. So in that way, so while he is indulged in that sense pleasure, the addictions arises. So they might go to the addictions of the pictures, sound, smell, taste, touch. So because now the addiction take place not because of the happy feeling, pleasant feeling, but because of the underlying tendency of greediness or lust. So as long as there is this lust or greediness, that defilement cause suffering. So he goes with different objects, different sense pleasures. He seek the diversity of sense pleasures, but they all are like a fruit of a tree. They have a specific time and they will change. Now, Buddha say he now he does not understand this. He doesn't understand this reality of these feelings. So very interesting this part. He does not understand as it really is the origin and passing away. Gratification, danger, and escape in the case of these feelings. So what he lack is the knowledge of Four Noble Truths. So maybe we can say like the uh, the the um, the truth behind these all the feelings. So there is a ongoing truth in that feeling, which means it has an origin, passing away. It has a gratification, and the feeling itself has a danger because it's changing, and the feeling also have an escape. But in this case, in the case of these feelings, he does not understand this. When he does not understand these things, the underlying tendency to ignorance in regarding neither painful nor pleasant feeling lies behind this. Now, Buddha say, whenever there is not pleasant feeling, not painful feeling, there is something called neutral feeling, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. The neutral feeling arises. So there arise underlying tendency to ignorance whenever there is neutral feeling. So even when we have the neutral feeling, there is kind of confusion because we don't really understand the nature of the feelings because it is covered by ignorance. So the life is covered by not understanding suffering, not understanding the cause of the suffering, not understanding the end of the suffering, and not understanding the way leading to the end of the suffering. And this is called ignorance. Because of this, so his experience is enveloped and closed with ignorance. So he does not know the nature of the neutral feeling. So let's say, let's take the same example with that boy. So now uh, let's say he's sometimes now he remember that past memory. So he chose to go to the sense pleasures, but again the sense pleasures are keep changing. Again he come back to the uh, painful feeling and struggle with the aversion. And all he has is the greed and aversion, lust and aversion. So now he think, okay, I should go for a somewhere to have a neutral feeling. Maybe he might go on a walk. He might see a beautiful lake. So he sit down in front of the lake and look at the rippling of the water. And he might now feel kind of neutral feeling. But even in that moment, he is being enveloped and enshrouded by ignorance, because he don't really understand what is the feeling means. So because of that, sometimes you might have heard like people say, I think all I can, if I can go to a deep forest and live in the forest, so I might feel all the happiness. But in that moment, that he might not have sense pleasures, but he still have confusion. He might have a neutral feeling, but he does not he doesn't know the reality behind these feelings. So what we need to understand is the origin, passing away, gratification, danger, and escape of that feeling. Now, Buddha say, if he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it attached. He's talking about that previous ordinary person. He say if he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it attached. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it attached. If he feels a neutral feeling, he feels it attached. Now, whatever the feeling arises in his mind, whether it's a painful, pleasant, or neutral, he feel it being attached to the feeling. This monks is called an uninstructed worldling who is attached to the birth, aging, death, who is attached to the sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair, who is attached to the suffering, I say. Now, my dear friends, Buddha speaks about the noble disciple. Monks, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by painful feeling, he does not sorrow. He does not sorrow, grieve, lament. He does not weep, beating his breast and become distraught. He feels one feeling, a bodily one, not a mental one. Now, in this teaching, Buddha say, when it comes to enlightened Bhante or to our Supreme Buddha, so how they experience this feeling is that not being a lament, not being sorrow, not being grief. They only feel a bodily one, not a mental one, which means they will not suffer by their mind towards their bodily painful feelings. You know, while we are meditating, we might feel that numb legs or hurting back or sometimes headache, sometimes backache. So by being in a certain place for a long hours, so might bring painful feelings. When they now Buddha say when a noble disciple feels that kind of a painful feeling, they only feel it to the body, just a bodily one, not a mental one. If you remember, my dear friends, when the Buddha was alive, so there was an evil monk who was trying to harm the Buddha and tried to kill the Buddha, so tried to injure the Buddha. One day, while the Buddha was doing a walking meditation under in a certain place, so this evil monk put a big stone into the Buddha's body in order to harm the Buddha. So in that time, so uh, the Buddha did not he did not harmed Buddha's life, but a piece of rock broken from that giant rock fall down into the Buddha's feet, and he was injured. Now, when the Buddha had that feeling, so because of that injury, so because that wound, so Buddha felt, so Buddha had that bodily feeling, but he never suffered from his mind. Who did this? Why this did this? So why this evil monk is doing this to me? So even that I ordained him, why he's giving this kind of danger to me as the Buddha. So he never thought like that. Because of that, he never suffered from mind. when he feel the bodily pain. So usually Buddha talks that whenever you meditate, so if you feel that painful feeling, to uh, try to be mindful towards that painful feeling and try to not focus to that painful feeling and try to train your mind to tolerate the painful feeling. Now, Buddha says, suppose they were to strike a man with a dart, but they would not strike him immediately after with a second dart. So he take the same simile and he said that when a person shoot an arrow to another person, he does not shoot the second arrow to him. So because of that, he only suffer from single arrow, not the second arrow. So this is the way of a noble disciple. So that the man would feel a feeling caused by one dart only. He suffer only one dart. So too, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by painful feeling, he feels one feeling, a bodily one, not a mental one. Being contacted by that same painful feeling, he harbors no aversion towards it. Now he becomes sensitive to that painful feeling, but he does not harbor aversion or the anger towards that sad feeling, towards that painful feeling. Because after practicing Noble Eightfold Path, they completely purified their mind. So there is no any sort of underlying tendencies, unskillful mental states in their mind. So that's the complete purity of the mind. So where there is no any sort of anger, no aversion, no any sort of repulsion, so he does not recoil from any experience. He does not repel from any experience because he does not suffer by his own mind with the aversion. Only the feeling, only the he become sensitive to the only to the feeling. Since he harbors no aversion towards painful feeling, the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feeling does not lie behind this. Being contacted by painful feeling, he does not seek delight in sense pleasures. Now, because he had completely understand the real nature of the feeling, he does not seek the sensual objects in order to remove that painful feeling. For sure, they will live with sense pleasures, they will have food, they will have pictures, sounds, smell, taste, and lodgings, clothes. But these noble disciples does not seek for sense pleasures in order to remove the painful feeling. So because he does not seek sensual delight in sense pleasures, so Buddha asks for what reason they don't seek sense pleasures, because the instructed noble disciple knows of an escape from painful feeling other than sense pleasures. They know how to escape from painful feeling rather than sense pleasures. Since he does not seek delight in sense pleasures, the underlying tendency to lust for sense pleasures, underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling does not lie behind this. Now the Buddha say, because they do not seek for the delight in sense pleasures, because they completely understand the nature of the sense pleasures, as it is like a foot which is have the danger of falling down, and though it has a very little gratification but much suffering. When they understand this reality on the sense objects, so there does not arise lust or greed towards the pleasant feeling. So they do not uh, become greedy to that sense experience. It only brings them the happy feeling, pleasant feeling, but does not generate any sort of a greed, which means in a way of like wanting more, like going furthermore, more of enjoyment of sense pleasures, because they are completely satisfied with that experience. Let's say he only experiences it once in his life, but that that kind of a sense object completely brings them the satisfaction. So they become fully, completely satisfied with that sensual objects because it does not create the greediness. He understand as it really is the origin, passing away, gratification, danger, and escape in the case of these feelings. Now, this is the knowledge that one need to gain in order to remove the underlying tendencies towards the feeling. They should understand the origin, passing away, which means every feelings has a arising and vanishing. They are not complete, they are not permanent, they are not constant. They have the nature of arising and passing away. And that feeling also have a gratification, which means the feeling itself has a enjoyment, but it's also have a danger. That is the change of that feelings. And it also have a escape, which means uh, uh, abandoning the desire, abandoning the craving to the feelings. So this part might need much more explanation, but I don't think that in this moment we might have time for go for a big explanation about that part. But Buddha say simply you can understand this one by understanding the nature or the understanding of uh, the reality behind the feelings. So, since he understands these things, the underlying tendency to ignorance in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling does not lie behind this. So, whenever they feel neutral feeling, even when they experience neutral feeling, Buddha say they do not confuse with that feeling because they gain the complete understanding about these feelings. Now, Buddha say, this is very interesting part of this sutta. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it detached. So the noble disciple, the Buddha, or the enlightened Bhantes, whenever they feel pleasant feeling, they feel it detached. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it detached. If he feels a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, which means neutral feeling, he feels it detached. So he does not attach to any of the feelings which arise in their mind. This monk is called a noble disciple who is detached from birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, despair, and displeasure, who is detached from suffering, I say. This monk sees the distinction, difference in between noble disciple and the uninstructed worldling. So Buddha say for a noble disciple, so whenever there arise in him a happy, sad, or neutral feeling, they experience that without attachment. You know, my friends, our Buddha gave a simile to understand the feelings in when he delivers the talks about the five aggregates. So Buddha say it is just like a uh, water bubble. So let's say that when it rains to a lake or to a pond, So whenever the raindrops fall down into the water, there pops up water bubbles, and whatever the water bubble appear, they break to the same place. Again, a raindrop falls, but again another water bubble appears in the same place, and again it breaks. Again appears and breaks. So there's we never seen any water bubble which was permanently stay there forever, but it's subjected to break, always arising and breaking. So Buddha said the Buddha have seen the feelings similar to a water bubble. So they see there is a happy feeling, pleasant feeling, and it breaks. There appears a painful feeling and it breaks. There appears a neutral feeling and it breaks. Whatever appears, they are breaking. But we don't see this because we lack the knowledge of origin, passing away, gratification, danger, and escape. We don't truly understand the uh, truth behind these feelings. Because of that, we tend to create the attachment to the feelings. Usually we attach to the happy feeling so much, and we don't need to let go we don't need the sad feeling, painful feeling. We always need the pleasant feeling, and we don't like the neutral feeling, so we always try to make it permanent. But the nature of the feeling is itself is like a water bubble. It arises and vanishes. So in order to gain this knowledge, to liberate ourselves from the feeling, I mean, from the suffering. So one need uh, to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. So when a person start to follow the Noble Eightfold Path, they will achieve this state of mind. So then they will gain the opportunity to remove all the underlying tendencies. So usually after teaching this kind of a teaching, Buddha uh, give a kind of a chanting of verses to summarize all the teaching. So Buddha say, the wise one learned does not feel the pleasant and painful mental feeling, which means the wise one who understands this teaching does not suffer from the feelings. This is the great difference between the wise one and the worldling. For the learned one who has comprehended the Dhamma, who clearly sees this world and the next, desirable things do not provoke his mind. Towards the undesired, he has no aversion. I think this is the way to live at always at present moment by understanding the feelings. That's why Buddha say when it comes to the establishment of the mindfulness, the second one is to establish our mindfulness into the feelings. So then we see the nature of the feelings. Uh, Again, Buddha say, for him, attraction and repulsion no more exist. He does not have something like being greedy or being repulsive to the experience, which is usually happens. Both have been extinguished, brought to an end. Having known the dust-free, sorrowless state, the transcender of existence rightly understands. So when it comes to the Buddha's life, so there were so many uh, life circumstances the Buddha had to go through, like with the evil beings, evil people that tried to harm the Buddha, but he never suffered from that. And even he was like the merchant created for him a uh, uh, very beautiful cottage, which is surrounded by sandalwood, which always gives fragrance, where the Buddha always lived. But he never attached to that place, to that chamber. So people always brings flowers and food, delicious food, but Buddha lived it much ease and relaxed by not um, being greedy and even not being uh, repulsive. to the things that surrounded him. So, whatever the situation or whatever the circumstances that the Buddha had to go, so he did not suffer from that. So, my dear friends, so may this teaching be also help all of us to attain this beautiful Dhamma and to be free from suffering. And may we all have the great opportunity to understand the Four Noble Truths and be free from all the sufferings in our lives. Say sadhu,
Sa
sadhu, sadhu.